Hello, Tracy here, and welcome to the first video of The Doctors Are In with Tracy Banks and Irit Landgraf. We are two scrapbookers who happen to also be doctors. I'm a psychologist and Irit is a physician, and we're here to bring you a series where we give you two different takes on solutions to what ails your creative body and soul. So today we're going to be talking about scrap block therapy, which is using mini kits as a way to get your creative juices flowing and to feel a little bit less overwhelmed as you start a layout. That's one of the biggest questions that I get from people is, how do I know how to get started? I have all these supplies and I just don't know where to start. So in the previous video, I picked out a kit, and in this video, I'm going to scrapbook with that kit that I created. So make sure that you check out the other video where I talk about how I chose these items to go in this kit. So I've slowed this video down a little bit more than my normal process videos. It's at 300 speed instead of 400 speed, which hopefully will keep the pace going enough that it's not going to be terribly boring. But I wanted to slow it down a little bit to just have a bit more of a chance to explain my process for this series, and also to encourage you guys to maybe scrap along if you've got access to a device or a player in your scrapbooking area. Maybe you can be scrapbooking and I can be scrapbooking at the same time, which was a really fun idea that Irit had for this series. So I'm taking this piece of gray 6x6 paper from the Take Me Away collection, and I just tore off the bottom part of it to make it a horizontal rectangle. And now this paper I have here is from Take Me Away from Pink Paisley, and it is the inspiration for the entire kit. I really wanted to use this paper as a background. Now I'm going to take this note paper border punch and just punch a border edge along the edge of this Take Me Away gray paper. I love the contrast between such a really light gray. I'm just crinkling it up a little bit to give it a bit more texture and also to lift it off the background a little bit and cast some shadows. See how those beautiful gray shadows that casts? I really love the contrast between that really light gray and then the dark blue paper that photo is matted with. And now this is a Studio Calico paper from my scrap bin. I did pick scraps for this kit. I picked a combination of full papers. This one is from Saturday from Dear Lizzie. And this one is also from Saturday from Dear Lizzie, but it's a scrap, that donut paper. I picked a combination of 12 by 12 and scrap papers because I just wanted the kit to be that. I mean, I think that's one of the benefits of having a stash kit is that you can use up some things that you otherwise might not get a chance to use. So I'm just lining up all of these vertical rectangles all along the left-hand edge of my photo. And then of course that light gray piece of paper from Take Me Away spans the whole bunch of layers. And then I just cut a larger piece of that vellum from the Cute Girl collection. The gray paper, by the way, is from the Cute Girl collection. I might have just said it was from Take Me Away. Now, this floral is one of my very favorite florals in the kit. It's from Cute Girl, and I just used a new, to me, Stampin' Up! Punch that I got from a friend of mine who stopped scrapbooking, and I bought some of her supplies. So that is a photo corner punch, and I thought it would be fun to have just a little bit of that floral paper on this. And then I also took a very, very thin strip of that floral paper and also of this striped paper from Chamel, the yellow striped paper, and I thought about taking a small strip of that, but I decided to take a second strip of the floral paper so that I can kind of sandwich that striped paper in between the two florals. And I'm going to run these strips right below where my layers go to give my layered piece a bit of an anchor to the page. So I really like how that's looking. It's something very different than what I normally do. So that's what really appeals to me about this layout with these three really narrow strips that are not at all overlapped, is that it gives me a chance to try something that's a little bit of a different look for me. So now I'm just having a look at what else I have here, and I would like to use that "You Are My Sunshine" because of the yellow on it, and I also would love to use that little strip of houses because the mall is in the city. So I'm going to put those aside, and this is a freckled fawn frame from quite some time ago. It came in one of the freckled fawn Oh Dear Me kits from quite a long time ago, probably like 3 years ago. And then I also have that tassel from the Cute Girl collection, and I picked a couple of tassels for the kit, and I chose the black and white one because I really liked how neutral it was next to all of those colorful layers. Now I'm just cutting around a camera in this pattern paper from Chamel, and I chose this piece of pattern paper for my kit with the idea that I probably would only just cut one camera out of it and use it on one of the projects. So this is all that I plan to use for this paper in the whole kit. I really like that. I like that the plainness and simpleness of that camera, and that's from Chamel, of course. And by the way, I think I called that yellow and white striped paper a Chamel paper. It's actually from Ellie's studio, so sorry about that. So now I'm actually going to just freeze my process for a few minutes and talk about what I have chosen so far. So this is a freeze frame, so sorry about that. I have that little chipboard piece of buildings there, which is from the Take Me Away collection from Pink Paisley, and I have a Freckled Fawn square flare badge with the heart on it. I have that frame from Freckled Fawn as well, and I also have that fabric button flower that's right above the frame, and that is a homemade embellishment that Craft and Kate sent to me quite some time ago. And I have them all set out to the side there, and I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with them, but I feel like I don't want too many layers of embellishments because I have so much paper layered over on the left-hand side, and then of course I also have that tassel and the photo there on the left. So I need to balance those two, but I don't want to go overboard on this layout. So that's my thinking at this point. Meanwhile, I have there I unpaused you. Meanwhile, I have those two little photo corners up in the corner there that I'm thinking I might put some journaling around those. So I'm just working from the top to the bottom, running a piece of adhesive, like running a strip of adhesive and then gluing each layer to the layer under it or over it, I guess. And then I'm just using my fingers to curl up those edges, and I'm actually going to take some of these Stampin' Up! Dimensional adhesive, which is my favorite kind of dimensional adhesive, and I'm just sticking them in between the layers, and I'm not taking the little backing off of them just in case I decide to stick anything else in between these layers. I don't want them stuck down to one another. And then I am putting the whole clump of layered papers and the photo, I'm attaching all of that onto that light gray piece of larger, like that larger horizontal rectangle. And that is, of course, the part of that 6x6 piece of paper from Cute Girl. Also, the Cute Girl vellum is also attached at the bottom there. And I love how those layers cast shadows on each other. They're just so pretty. I took the ring off of the tassel, and now I'm just going to staple it right onto my photo, just like that. And I just wanted to staple it again, so I did so. Only it didn't work, so I'm going to take it out, and I think I'm going to take it out. Or maybe it did work. Maybe I'm getting confused. Another staple is going to not work in a few minutes. So now I had to take those layers apart a little bit in order to be able to staple, so I just put them back together again. And I had to pop up the right-hand side of that photo because there's so many layers underneath of the left-hand side that in order for the photo to lay flat, I had to put dimensional adhesive on the other side, like on the right-hand side of that. So now I'm using the pattern on my background paper. There is a graphic kind of a pattern on the paper. And so I'm using that as a guide to make sure that I'm putting these little strips of paper on straight. And I'm just making them so that they don't line up on either the right or the left. And as I said, I wanted that piece of Ellie's Studio yellow and white striped paper to be sandwiched between these two strips of floral paper. And I just used my Zig 2-way glue pen to do that. And it does a pretty good job. I had to go back and add a bit more adhesive on these edges here because they weren't quite sticking. So again, I'm just using the pattern on the background paper to line those up so that they're pretty straight. I'm not being too particular about it, but I do want them to be mostly straight. And so I'm thinking I'll put the flare badge on top of the pink building, and that'll give me a little bit of balance, like kind of draw your eye out through the whole width of this main, I guess, cluster of embellishments. And then I'm thinking I could underlap the chipboard building piece with one of the layers so that it's kind of tucked between the vellum and the gray paper, just like that. And I don't want either of these layers to be touching those 3 strips of paper, or I guess it would be the top of the 3 strips of paper. I don't want either the buildings or the bunch of paper that's layered under the photo to touch those strips. So you just saw me put that down. And now I feel like another floral element would be nice. And putting it right here is... I think it'll work because it'll balance off what's over on the left-hand side of the photo. So I'm thinking I'll just put that little acrylic piece. It's not acrylic, it's a little transparency piece right there. And that is one of the die cuts that I had picked out already from the Cute Girl collection. And so is this little not acrylic, but this other little multicolored transparency piece. And I thought that might look really cute right underneath of the Freckled Fawn frame. Freckled Fawn frame, alliteration at its best. So then I have this set of thickers from Dear Lizzie, and they're called Petals, and they're the thicker that I had picked out as part of the kit. So far I haven't used anything outside of my kit. And I want to call this one Mall Rats, because look at them. They look like teenagers hanging out at the mall, even though they're not. So they are hanging out at the mall, and they want to be on their own more when we go to the mall. So that's what this layout is going to be about. So I have a piece of wax paper, and I had this idea. I wasn't sure if it would work, but I had this idea of layering the word Mall Rats, and I just took some mini market stickers by October Afternoon for the word rats. And I thought that I might be able to make a little title piece. I love making little title pieces. I like making journal pieces and title pieces as sort of like separate little mini projects within my scrapbooking process. And so I'm going to start this little title piece by adhering the transparency, the multicolored transparency from Cute Girl. I'm going to layer it and glue it down. You saw me use my Tombow Mono multi-adhesive for that. And now I'm just trimming the edges so that this little piece of transparency is attached to the Freckled Fawn frame. And I just used my little precision scissors for that. They're Cutter B. And when I was doing that, because it's liquid glue, the frame shifted around a little bit with the transparency, and I got a little bit of glue on the edges, which you're probably not going to see once the title is on there. But I just took a toothpick and a baby wipe, and I'm just wiping some of that adhesive off of the transparency so that it's nice and shiny and doesn't have little bits of glue globbed on it, because that wouldn't be very nice. Now I have this set of this piece of foam adhesive from Stampin' Up. And I've run out of them and had to open a new package since I've started this layout. But the edge pieces make really good tiny little pieces for popping little small things up. So I'm going to use those for popping up these letters. I'm starting with the A and the L because they're going to very easily just be inside of the frame, whereas the M and the second L is going to be layered half on the frame and partially hanging into the frame. So that's going to be a little bit more complicated to do. So I'm starting with the easy things. And it'll look something like this. And as I lay the M and the L on top of the frame, I'm realizing that I'm actually going to need a double layer of adhesive in order for the A and the L in the center to come up to the same height that the M and the second L will be. So what I'm doing right now is I'm taking the part of the M that extends into the frame, and I'm putting a double layer of dimensional adhesive on that. And now I'm going to double up the adhesive that I already put on this A. And I'm just using the tiny little bits from around the edges. You saw me cut it into little bits to make it easier to place. So there's that. And what I'm doing off frame here is there was a little bit extending out. So I took my scissors and I just trimmed it down. Sorry, I was just zoomed in so much that you can't see that. But I think you're going to see most of this process. So I'm taking off the backing of those so that I can just add another layer. And I messed up that one, so I'm going to just do both of those over again, because once they stuck to each other, it was hard to move them. So I'm just going to cut a couple of new ones there. I'm running out of the little bits, so I had to actually cut into my new sheet of dimensional adhesive, which is fine. That's what the edges are for. So I'm liking how that looks, actually. And now my question for myself is, what am I going to do with the word rats? Because that's going to need to be popped up as well. So I'm cutting some more of my edges of this dimensional adhesive. I just cut it all at once so I don't have to go back and cut it each time. So as I did with Mall, I'm going to start with the two center letters because they're easy and straightforward, just 2 layers of Stampin' Dimensionals. And I'm just using the edges because they fit really nice inside of these Mini Market letter stickers. And now, when it comes to the R, I have just a 1/4 piece actually. So the A and the T are mounted on half pieces, and now the R has a little 1/4 piece up in the top right-hand corner, and the S is going to have a little 1/4 piece in the top left-hand corner, so that the part that overhangs into the frame has 2 pieces of foam adhesive. There we go. And so I'm starting by putting the S and the R on because I need them to be pretty lined up with each other so that the title doesn't look like it's, going downhill or something like that, or uphill. And then I'll apply the A and the T, and I'm going to fuss a little bit with the placement because at first I thought I wanted it lined up, and then I thought, no, actually I want it not lined up. I want the word rats to look kind of like it's messy. So now I do have to put a tiny bit of dimensional adhesive along the long part of the L, which extends into the frame there, just to give it some support so it doesn't fall down when it's in my album. I want this title to stay put. After I spend so much time making it, I really want it to hold up over time. I decided to overlap the letters in the word mall, like the bottoms of those letters, with the tops of the Mini Market stickers. That helps your title look kind of cohesive and like it belongs when you have a chance to overlap letter stickers with each other so that one word is overlapped with another. And so there's my title. It says Mall Rats, and it doesn't have to be centered. It's okay that the M extends out further than the L does. It kind of adds to the casual or maybe whimsical nature of it. I love that this layout has the word rat in it, which is not a very nice word, but it's so pretty and feminine with these beautiful, pretty colors and floral patterns and stuff. I really like the contrast of the word rats when I'm talking about such cute girls with such pretty embellishments on this page. And so this is my title piece, and I think it turned out really great. I like it quite a lot. So breaking down your project into bits like this, where you say, okay, now I'm going to work on my title, and just work on your title, can really make the process go by a little bit more smoothly. Now I'm just stapling that photo frame, or I guess it's like a little photo corner. I'm stapling it in place, but it was irritating me that the top staple was actually crooked. I just rushed myself a little bit too much, and it's not that big of a deal, but the other two were not crooked. The other two were lined up with the edge of the paper. So I wanted the third one to be lined up as well. Although it is on a perpendicular angle, I wanted it to match. Now I'm taking some of my Tombow Mono multi-adhesive, and I'm just running it around the outside of this title piece where it will be covered up by the frame. And I'm just nestling that title piece right in the corner of where that little photo corner is on the edge. Oh, I love that punch. I'm going to use that punch a lot. I like using it in that. I like the contrast between the squareness of that corner punch and then the softness of the circular shape of the title piece. I really like that a lot. So here we are. I'm going to go back down here and start working on the main part of my layout. And I have this all over the page punch by Martha Stewart. It's a pinked circle, and it's one of my favorite punches. A pinked circle is such a versatile shape. The problem with it, of course, is that it's just a tiny bit too small for this particular flare badge, because it is a fairly large one. So I'm going to cut 3 of these circle punches, these pinked circle punches, and I'm going to overlap them so that a little bit of them, so that the overall shape, it's not exactly a circle, it's kind of almost a heart shape. It's like 2 circles above and then 1 circle kind of extending down. Anyhow, it's a rough triangular circular shape. Rounded triangle maybe, with pinked edges. So I like how that looks, and I like that it gives the flare badge a little bit of a home to sit upon, and gives some separation between the building behind the flare badge and then the flare badge itself. So I really like that. Sorry about my head. I think my camera angle is a little bit off from where it used to be, so I'll try to remember to fix that before my next video. So now I'm thinking this frame is actually going to be a nice place to put my journaling, which is a new idea. I actually wasn't thinking of that the whole time that I had the frame out. I was thinking the frame would be more of a design element at first. But I thought if I put some vellum inside of the frame or behind the frame, then I could do some journaling on there, and that solves my problem of where am I going to put my journaling. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to run some adhesive along the edges of the back of the frame, and then attach my vellum. And now that's kind of nice. And all along I'm thinking, this is kind of unusual for me to have this little cluster that's a little bit separated from the cluster that includes the photo, but I kind of like it. It feels like it's got some balance. It's a little different. What I mean by different is that that frame is over to the right a little bit more than, see, this is where I would normally put it. And I've been playing with the idea of putting it just a little bit over to the right, which would give me a bit of a gap between the layers that are my photo and then this little frame embellishment. I have to find my layout. It's buried under all of these things that I have on my desk as I'm narrating. So I'm going to pull it out so that I can tell you my journaling. And I'm just using my little notebook there as a guide, because the lines on my grid mat were too spread out to use as guides. So I'm just using my Faber-Castell Pitt pen with the fine point tip, and it says they are becoming so independent. At the mall, they love to get their own bubble tea. And then I had a bit of a space, so I just filled it with the word slurp, because that's the sound they make when they're drinking their bubble tea at the mall. There's a little kiosk that they go to. They save their own money, and they always want to go to get bubble tea at this little kiosk at the mall in the city. And so we've just started letting them go and do that on their own while we might be shopping in a certain store. We don't let them have free reign of the mall, like, okay, you guys go your own way and we'll go our own way. We kind of just give them little little contained moments of independence at the mall, because it is a big mall and it is in the city, and our kids are, because they grow up in the suburbs, they're a little bit sheltered. So anyhow, that's what I wanted this layout to be about. I just took that embellishment over to my sewing machine, and I sewed some not zigzag, but some straight stitch just back and forth using my reverse and just forward stitch until I had like zigzaggy black lines sewn onto it. And now I'm just using some regular adhesive to stick that little transparent element. And look at me, I'm chickening out and going the comfortable route and putting this where I would normally put it, because it just felt right. I don't know, just that gap was bothering me a little bit. It would have been different for me to put it in the other. See, look at me. I'm like, maybe I'll put it there after all. Nope, I'm going to put it right where I predictably would put it. But that's okay. It's my page, so it's all right if it looks predictable and in line with my style of doing things. So I like that. I'm just playing around with, I've been scrapbooking for a long time and using similar design principles. You have your favorite go-to principles. And so I'm just playing around with breaking some rules. And for a while there, it was really appealing to me to have that embellishment be kind of separated from the others. But I'm much more comfortable with things being overlapped and close, like kind of snuggled in together. I like snuggly layouts. So I just did some outlining on that camera to give it a little bit more emphasis and contrast and to stand out a little bit from the photo behind it and the tassel in front of it. Added a gold chipboard sticker from that Take Me Away collection. And now here I am playing around a little bit with what am I going to do? I wanted to bring some color onto this flare badge and overlap. What I'd like to do is overlap the pink heart with the black heart, but the pink heart is too big to do that. And when I do the yellow, it's too much of the same. Like there's yellow behind the flare badge and then there's yellow on top of the flare badge, and that's just too much the same. So that's not going to work. So I found on the cute girl stickers, I found this little pink heart sticker, and that is because it's pink, it's going to work better, and it's a little bit smaller. And then I thought I could put a little phrase sticker and overlap that on top of this as well, and that will just add a little bit more interest. And I decided to add the third color. So my colors here are pink and blue and yellow. So I'm going to add some blue here by adding this I Love You So sticker. And I like how that looks. I like to layer things on top of flare badges. And then there was a space in my journaling, so I just filled it in with another little heart sticker. It's like one sticker that is 2 layered hearts. And I'm just going to outline them for emphasis. And because it's a shiny sticker that's a slick surface, I'm using my Lumocolor permanent marker for that. And since I outlined that heart and then the other pink heart sticker has an outline already on it, I just decided to outline the gold foiled XO heart sticker from the other collection as well, so that they all look like they belong together, even though they're from different sticker sets. Now, this little gap of space between where that overhead transparency, the brightly colored flower is, and where the flare badge is, there was this little funny gap that I think it would have been fine if I left it, but I felt like it was a little bit of a gap that needed a little something. So when I spell out the word love using these chipboard stickers from the Cute Girl collection, it's a little bit larger than what I would have liked to have had in that space, but it's really nice, and I do like it. So I'm going to leave it there even though it's not perfect. But that gives me a bit of a dilemma, because now the things over in that right cluster are quite a bit richer and more vivid in color than the things on the left cluster. So the tassel and the camera were both fairly muted and neutral looking. So I added that floral cardstock sticker from the Cute Girl set, and I just layered it behind the tassel and inside it, in between some of the layers. And then I also added a yellow sticker, phrase sticker, and it says Sweetest Girl, and so I just added an S so that it says sweetest girls. A little tongue-tied there. So I went ahead and showed you the close-ups of that, but then I decided, no, I need some misting. So I'm going to sprinkle some little white droplets of mist using my Mr. Huey's white mist in the 3 places where the clusters are. So this is another example of a layout that uses 3 clusters of embellishments to create a visual triangle on my page. And now I'm also going to splatter some gold mist, and I'm annoyed with my Heidi swap because it started doing the same problem that a lot of people noticed, and I always used to chime in and say, mine doesn't do that at all. And now it does. So my gold Heidi Swap Color Shine Mist leaves these little oily rings around the droplets these days. And so I've switched to this Liquitex Gold ink instead. But I like to drop it with a Heidi Swap nozzle because it creates tinier little driplets. And so you saw what I did there. I just did a little switcheroo, took the nozzle off of the Heidi Swap, gave it a little wipe. That bottle is almost empty. Gave it a little wipe with a baby wipe so that I don't cross-contaminate. And then I drew the gold out of the ink bottle instead, the Liquitex ink bottle. And I did dry those white drips before I added the gold, just so that they didn't mix if there were any, if any overlapped. I wanted the 2 colors to stay separate, and I almost always do that. Those are Heidi Swap non-stick mats that I use. I have 3 of them. I wish I had 4 that I just cover my surface with. And that seems to be working better than the cake box. It provides a bit of less of a storage problem. There were, for some reason, 2 stray places where there were exposed adhesive stuck to my background paper, so I just took them off using that little tool. I think that tool is from EK Success. It's just an adhesive remover. This is what this top cluster looks like, and I love it. It's my favorite part of this layout. Oh wait, maybe this is my favorite part. I love how these papers all combine with the floral and the geometric, and then that donut paper and the gray triangle paper with the border punch. Oh, I love that. That's such a great photo too. The curls, they didn't pose for it. I just took it, which is nice. It looks like it's posed, but it's not. So this is what the layout looks like. There are some photos coming up as well. Make sure that you check out Irit's kit video and her 2 process videos as well. Depending on when you see this, my second process video for using this little mini kit may not be posted. We're going to space them out a little bit so that this video will go live on a Friday, and then the next video of the page that I made with my mini kit won't be posted until Saturday the next day. So depending on when you watch this, you may or may not have a second video to watch that uses this kit, but come back and find it later if it's not up yet. And I hope you guys have a really great scrappy week.